Okay, so let's take care of the bolts now. Let's maybe switch this back to the front view. And we'll zoom in on one of these tabs here. And we'll just make a really simple bolt or rivet to fit on this piece here. Okay, so let's drop this down to extended primitives, and we'll just grab maybe the oil tank for this, and we'll just draw that out in the center here. Okay, and we can adjust the size in a second, so just give it a little bit of height, and we'll just kind of line it up here in the center. Alright, I'm just going to eyeball this. Right there looks pretty good. Okay, so we'll just take up the height a little bit on this. We're going to have to cut it in half. Okay, so just increase the height there. Doesn't really matter how much, and we'll add an extra height seg here. Okay, we're not going to turbo smooth these bolts, so let's just take up the sides a little bit more. Let's maybe do 20, just so it's nice and smooth. And we'll just figure out if that size will work for us. So I'm just going to push this back a little bit on the y-axis so we can kind of get an idea of how big this will look. Might be a little too big. Let's just take it down. Let's do maybe about 5 on the radius. Okay, I think that should work pretty good. Let's move it out in front again. And we'll just do maybe about 3.3 or so on the cap height. Alright, now let's collapse the editable poly. And let's go to vertex and delete the back verts here. And we'll just shorten this up a little bit. Maybe something like that. Let's also center its pivot point. So back into the hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, and center to object, and turn the button off. And we'll just hit Z here to zoom on the piece. Let's also throw our material on that. And just to give it a little bit extra detail here, let's maybe just punch in the front. Let's go to vertex, and we'll select this center vert here, and control click polygon. And we'll just hit grow here once. Okay, let's maybe just extrude these in. So we'll open up extrude here, and we'll just take this down to a negative amount, and we'll just punch it in something like that, maybe 1.5, negative 1.5, and okay. And let's also make it planar, maybe just to flatten out those faces on Z. Alright, that should work fine. So now we can just chamfer down a few of these edges. Let's maybe start with this one here. Do a loop on that and a chamfer, and we'll take this way down. And we want to kind of still have somewhat of a sharp edge here, so I don't want to roll it over too much. Let's do maybe 0.04. And we'll do the same thing with these two edges here. Inside note, loop those, and chamfer. Just got to take this up a little bit more. Maybe about 0.08, and okay. And that should work fine for our bolt. Okay, if we turn off our wire here with F4, you can see that looks pretty faceted. So let's maybe just throw on a smooth modifier. Alright, let's find that. Okay, and we'll just check auto smooth, and it'll smooth it a little bit for us. Or you can put on some smoothing groups, but it'll probably pretty much look the same as it does right here. So we'll just leave it with the smooth modifier. And we'll just push it back into the surface here. Okay, so let's just give it a rotation. So go up to rotate and spin that until the back edge kind of matches up with the angle of the other edges on the bracket right here. Okay, we'll also pull it out a little bit here and just see how that looks. Okay, that should work fine. Let's maybe push it back a little bit more. Okay, I'm also going to just maybe shorten this back piece up a little bit. So let's drop back down into border maybe, grab the back border. And to move this on the angle of the bolt here, we'll just switch our view up here, our coordinate system, to local. Okay, and then I'll change the move gizmo so it follows these edges. All right, so let's move that back a bit and shorten it up. Okay, we'll see if that looks okay. And I think that should work fine for our bolt. Okay, so just make sure you kind of have it centered on the piece there, and we can clone it over to the back. All right, so we'll do that in the top view. Now I'm just going to shift drag this up on the Y and choose copy. And we'll just rotate it around. Let's turn on angle snap, so we'll do it 180 degrees. And we'll just fit it in here. Okay, and on the back here we want to actually get it onto the tab coming out of the bar rather than just the bracket piece. Alright, so we'll just kind of center it right here, right between these two edges, this one and this one. And we'll check that in the perspective view just to make sure everything's lining up correctly. Okay, we'll also make sure that it's right in the center there, and that looks pretty good. Let's maybe move it down slightly here. Okay, that should work fine for our bolts. Okay, so we'll go back into the front view. Just gonna grab the front bolt again, and we'll just center the pivot point, and then we'll right click the spinner down here for the x-axis to move the pivot point to the center. Okay, turn it off, and we'll just mirror it over the same way as a copy on the X, and okay. And then we'll go around the back here and select the back bolt and do the exact same thing in the front view. Alright, so with the back bolt selected there, make sure the pivot point's centered, and then we'll just zero out the x-axis, turn off the button, and do a mirror. Okay, and let's actually undo that. I forgot to choose copy, so let's do it again. Okay, just like that, and we'll just make sure everything's lined up correctly. Okay, those look good on that side. Whoops. And I also forgot to choose copy on this one, so I'm just going to mirror that one back. Sorry about that. Just grab that one there and mirror it again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now that we have those 4 bolts positioned, we can just select all 4 of them. So I'm just going to hit H here and select all 4 oil tanks and hit OK. And we'll just shift drag these down in the front view to the bottom tabs here. Okay, choose copy. And don't worry if the bar is not lined up perfectly, we're going to fix that in a second. Alright, so we'll just center these on the tabs. And that looks pretty good right there. So let's control click the left and right tabs here. And we're just going to move these up with the bolts until they're in the center of the bottom part of the bar here. Okay, so just move that up. And just try to line that up as best you can. Okay, so we'll just check everything out in the perspective here and just make sure everything's lined up correctly. And that we have the bolts on the front as well as the back. Okay, everything looks good there. Before we start working on the handle up on the back here, I'm actually going to just clone some of these clips down to the bottom. Let's just actually turn the turbo speed back on this piece for a second. And I just want to check this out. Okay, because of the curve that we have here, using a clone of these ones up here probably really won't work for us. It won't fit correctly, so let's just maybe remodel a clip here at the bottom quickly. Alright, so to do that, let's turn off the turbo smooth one more time. Let's actually just delete it for now. Go back to the front view. And we want those clips right at the bottom here. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to change them a little bit from what we have here, just like we did these ones. They're pretty simple, so let's just make something up quickly. And to start here, we'll just maybe make another polygon selection and then clone them off. Okay, so let's go back to polygon, and let's grab these polys right here. Okay, we'll deselect the big ones, we don't need those, just the ones along the bottom edge. Okay, so on the inside and outside right up to this point. Okay, as well as underneath. And we'll do the exact same process as we did earlier. Go over to detach, choose detach as clone, and hit OK. Turn off polygon there. And we'll just select those 2 pieces and deselect the shield so we have our selection there. Okay, we also want, obviously want it to be a little bit shorter than it is right now. So let's maybe jump back into the front view. We'll zoom in here. And I'm just going to go to edge. And let's just maybe drag right through all the horizontal edges, and we'll maybe do a connect on this, and let's do 1 segment. Just trying to figure out how wide this needs to be. That might work right there. Let's just do 1 segment right in the center, so no pinch and no slide. Hit OK to that. Go back to vertex here, and I'm just going to delete the right side verts here to shorten it up. Okay, just like that. And we'll also put that shell modifier back on there just so we can see where the polygons are. Okay, so let's drop a shell on. And let's go way down to the bottom here and check on straighten corners again to fix that little bevel we had there. And we'll just figure out how wide this needs to be. Let's take it up a little bit on the outer amount. Let's do maybe 1.5. And we'll leave the inner amount at 0. And I think that should work fine for the clip here. So we'll just convert it to editable poly. And let's maybe extrude up a little piece here, similar to what we have up on the top. Before we do that, let's actually remove this edge on the front and back, just so we can make the extrusion a little bit thicker. Alright, so I'm going to grab an edge there, the same one on the back, we'll loop those, and we'll just control backspace those out. And then we'll grab a corner edge here, same thing on the other side, do a ring, and we'll just do a connect on this. And let's just do one segment in the center as well, so we'll hit OK, and we can go to polygon now, and we'll just grab that polygon there, and the same one on the other side. Okay, and we'll just extrude this up. And so I'm going to go back to the front view just so we can see how big we need to make this. And let's do another extrude. Okay, I'm not going to worry about following the blueprints on this particular piece. We'll just do something simple here. Okay, let's maybe leave it like that. Maybe slight bit lower. Let's do about 8. And okay, and we'll extrude it up one more time so we can kind of taper the top here. Okay, I'm also going to bring this down just slightly. Let's do about 6 on that one. Okay, and let's maybe go back to vertex here. Just going to go into the front view. And with those 8 verts selected on top, we'll just maybe scale these in a little bit. Alright, and before we scale them in, let's actually turn on our edge constraint again so everything stays in alignment. And we'll just go up to the scale tool here. I'm going to change that as well to local. Okay, and we'll just scale it a little bit on the X here and see if we can kind of straighten this out. Okay, and it looks like it's following pretty good, so we'll just taper that in a little bit. Check the back and make sure that's okay as well. Okay, everything seems to be following the surface pretty good, and we'll just check it out in the top view. Okay, that looks pretty good. Don't worry if it's a little twisted here, that's actually not a big deal at all. We'll just leave it. It's just because of the angle. Alright, so that should work good for that bottom clip. Let's go to vertex, we'll hit Alt-Q, and we'll just delete the inside polygons again. So let's go over to polygon, we'll turn on ignore backfacing, and check on by angle. And we'll just select the inner polygons here, holding control. Okay, and make sure you get these underneath ones. So just everything on the inside. Let's delete that out. And now we'll just add a few support edges the same way we did before. Okay, so back to edge, let's grab an edge here, and ring. And we'll connect it up with 2 segments again, and just pinch those out. Let's do about 85 or so on that one. Same thing here, grab an edge there, and ring. And we can do that about the same, so we'll hit OK. I kind of want these edges here to roll over, so we're not going to do any support edges along this edge here. We will add a few on the sides though, so let's maybe ring this edge and this edge. Okay. And we'll just connect that up. Let's just do 2 segments with no pinch and no slide, so they're right in the center. Let me just move this over. Hit OK to that, and we also need to continue that around the bottom here. So let's grab an edge here, and another one on the other side, and we'll ring those. And just hit connect. Okay, and we don't need the inner edge because the hole's open here, so we can actually loop these edges and take them out. So I'm going to select one here, as well as the inner one on each side, and we'll hit loop on that. Okay, and we'll do the exact same thing over here. Grab one of these edges here and loop it. Okay, so just like that, all the inner edges, and we'll just control backspace that out. Okay, and we do also need to add a few edges this way on it. Okay, so let's grab a corner edge there and ring and connect. Once again, use 2 segments, so we'll just pinch those out to the ends. Let's do maybe about 95 or 96 on that. Okay, and the top here will be a little bit tapered, the support edge. It's going to be a little closer to this edge than it is down here. And to fix that, we can just move the verts over again. All right, so I'm just going to grab these verts on top, as well as this one on the front. All right, the same ones over here, 3 top ones, as well as the one in the front and on this side. Okay, just like that. And the same 4 here. Okay, so with those 16 verts selected, we'll just give it a slight scale. All right, so let's make sure we have our edge constraint on. And we'll just go up to scale, and we'll scale it locally again on the x-axis here, just to move over a little bit. Okay, it doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe something like that, just to even out the spacing of these edges. Okay, so let's turn that off, and we'll put a turbo smooth on, and just see how this looks. Okay, so once again, 2 iterations in isoline. And everything looks like it's moving correctly. So let's get out of isolation mode here, and we'll just turn the turbo smooth back on the shield. So let's put another one on top of that. And we'll do 3 iterations again in isoline, and we'll just see if that fits okay here. Okay, that looks pretty good. And if you have a slight space in here, it's not a big deal. You can see there's a little bit of a gap there. That really won't be noticeable at all on the final model, so you can just leave that, or if you want to, you can just push it in slightly, but I don't think I'm going to worry about that for the tutorial. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's maybe just clone one of our bolts down there. Let's just grab one up here, and we'll shift drag it down on the Z, and choose copy. And we'll just center the pivot point here, and move that down into position. Okay, so right down there, just hit Z to zoom on it. And we're going to need to adjust the angle a little bit here, so let's just move it out in front. Okay, and we'll just rotate it until it's flush with the surface. Okay. So let's push it back a bit here until it intersects right about there. And we'll just move it up a little bit and try to kind of center it to the tab. Oops. Okay, so I think that should work fine for that bolt. Let's maybe clone it to the back. All right, so we'll grab that again. And in the top here, we'll just do another mirror as a copy on the Y. Just pull that right to the back there and just rotate it a little bit until it matches up with the edges. Okay, let's push it in. And we'll just look at this in perspective. All right, so just make sure that's just touching the surface and try to get it in the center of this tab. All right, just like that. Okay, so almost done here. We just need to clone these pieces over to the other side. So let's grab the 2 bolts as well as this tab. And let's just maybe group this for a second so everything stays in position. Let's hit OK to that. Back in the front view. Let's center the pivot point on the group. And let's also zero out the x-axis. Turn off the button and another mirror on the X as a copy. Okay, and that'll give us the other clip on the other side here, so let's see if that looks okay. Okay, everything looks good there. So we're almost done here. We just need to do the handle as well as that bar. Okay, so let's take another look at our reference picture here, and I think we'll start with the arm bar here first. Okay, and this will be pretty simple for us to model out. Alright, so let's maybe go into the left view here. I'm just going to turn off the grids with G. Okay, and I think we'll start this maybe with a cylinder. I'm just going to switch this to my right view. And let's go over to the create panel, grab a cylinder here, and we'll just draw this out right about here. Not too sure of the size we need yet, so we'll give it a little bit of height there, and just position it out like that. Okay, let's also throw our gray shader on there. And we'll get rid of those height segments we don't need, so we'll just right click the spinner for those. Let's also move it over here. And we'll also move it down a little bit here. And you can see on the reference picture here, it's quite a bit down from the top edge. Okay, let's maybe take the radius down just a little bit more. Don't want it to be too big to start with. Let's maybe try 40 on the radius, and we'll just do, say, 25 or so on the height. And we'll leave it at 18 sides. Let's maybe push that in a little bit more. Okay, so I think we'll start with this. Let's go back into the right view, and let's convert this to editable poly now. And let's go to vertex, and we'll just delete off some of these bottom verts that we don't need. We're just going to use the outside of this to kind of get the curve that we want, and we'll just extrude some edges down to kind of shape it into the shape that we need. Let's maybe delete these bottom ones here, and we could probably also maybe get rid of this one. Okay, so I'm going to delete those out. Let's also maybe delete this one over on the side. Okay, so we pretty much have half of this. Okay, and let's go to edge, and we'll grab the bottom edge here on the outside. And in the left view, we'll just maybe shift drag this down. Okay, I want to have kind of a taper on it, so it's kind of tapering in towards the back of the shield. And that might be a little bit too long. Let's maybe move that back up. Okay, we'll leave it like that for now. And we'll do the same thing over on this piece here. Let's grab that back edge. And we'll just shift drag this down. Okay, I'm going to bring it maybe a little bit out like this. Okay, and it comes down a little bit past that bar there. Okay, so let's maybe just push in a little bit more. Okay, we'll do something like that. And let's also make it look like it's actually sitting against the surface there. So I'm just going to grab these two vertical edges here and do a connect. Okay, with that edge there selected, we'll just kind of reshape this in the left view, or the right view, sorry. Just going to kind of push that in to straighten out those edges right there. Okay, we'll have it kind of taper out there at the bottom. All right, let's maybe just bring that a little bit like that. Okay, and let's maybe shorten this up just a little bit more. I don't want it to be too long, and we might pull these down just a little bit longer. Okay, so I think that's pretty much the shape that we need. Just gonna see how the size looks here. Still might be a little bit too short. Let's just pull it a little bit farther down. And I think we'll go with something like that. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's maybe put on a shell modifier to give it some thickness. And we'll take off the inner amount, and we'll just up the, or we'll take off the outer amount, sorry, and we'll up the inner amount. Okay, we'll just extrude that out. We don't want it to be too thick. Let's do maybe around 3 on the inner amount. And we'll also take on straighten edges again. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So let's collapse it back to editable poly. Whoops. And we'll just add a few support edges here. Okay, so same process. Grab one of those edges and ring it. Do a connect with 2 segments and just pinch those out. Okay, and we'll go pretty close to the outside here. Let's do about 90. And the same thing here. We'll grab one of these side edges, ring it, and connect it up. Let's do 2 segments. And we'll just pinch those out slightly. Let's do about 40. And okay. And we also need to add an edge loop around the bottom here and here. So let's grab these vertical edges here. Make sure you have ignore back facing off. And we'll connect that up with 1 segment. No pinch, and we'll slide that down towards the bottom. Okay. Let's do maybe about 98. Same thing over here. Grab these edges and connect that up with 1 segment. And we'll do around -94 or so on that one. Okay, that's really all the support edges we need, so we'll just put a turbo smooth back on. And we'll do 2 iterations and ice line, and we'll see if that looks okay. Okay, so everything's nice and smooth there. Now we just need to rotate so it's sitting against the bar. Okay, so back to the top view. Let's center the pivot point on this. And we'll just move it over here and give it a little bit of a rotation. Okay, so just kind of rotate that again to match the faces. And we'll just kind of sink it right into the strut here. Okay, and I think that's the outside edge and the inside edge of it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Last thing we'll do here is model out that handle. Okay, let's maybe do this maybe out of a spline, just so we can change it up a little bit here. I don't want to show you too many of the same techniques. Alright, let's go back into the create panel. We'll go into the shapes panel. And for this, let's maybe try a rectangle. Alright, so I'm going to grab one of those and we'll draw it out from the top bar to the bottom bar. Okay, and don't worry about the size too much, we can figure that out in a second. Alright, so just get it in there. Okay, we'll go over into the modify panel here, and under the rendering menu, we'll check on enable in render and enable in viewport, so we can see some thickness on it. Okay, and let's also apply our gray shader. And we'll just play with some settings here. So we want to go down and check on rectangle rather than radial. And we'll just kind of adjust the size here. I want this to look somewhat beefy, so we'll take it up quite a bit. Let's maybe try 20 by 20 here on the length and width, and we'll see if that looks okay. Let's also just push it over here to the side and move it in a little bit. Okay, it might even need to be a little bit more thick. Let's wind that out a little bit more. Let's do maybe 25 on the length. And let's also maybe try 25 on the width. Okay, that might work. Okay, it's also a little bit tall here, so let's just bring down the length of it. Okay, we can adjust it a little bit more if we need to later on. Alright, let's leave it like that for now. So let's do 25 on the length, 25 on the width, and about 104 or so for the length, and about 60 there on the width. Okay, and we'll convert this to editable spline. So right click, convert to editable spline, and let's go into segment here, and we'll just delete the left segment there. Okay, that'll cut the end off for us. Alright, and now we'll go into isolation mode, Alt Q. And we'll just spin around the back here, and let's convert this to editable poly. And we'll get rid of these two end polygons here. We don't need these or the bottom one, so we'll delete those out. And actually, before we do that, let's actually maybe fillet the corners first. So I'm just going to go back for a second before we convert it to editable poly here. And let's just do these verts before we actually do that part. Okay, so back into vertex for the editable spline. Grab the top and bottom verts there. And we'll go over to fillet, and we'll just drag up on these verts here to round this over. Okay, and then I'll give it a little bit more of the shape that we're looking for. All right, let's leave it something like that maybe. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now we can convert it to editable poly. All right, so convert to editable poly and get rid of those polygons again. And now we'll just go to edge, select one of these edges here, do a ring and a loop. Okay, and let's just chamfer that down. Alright, so I'm going to take it up quite a bit here to roll it out. We're looking for kind of a round shape, so let's maybe do something like maybe 7.1, 7.2, something like that. Hit OK to that. And let's also get a edge here, and we'll put another turbo smooth on this piece. And we'll see how it looks. So I'm going to do 2 iterations again and isoline. And we'll just see how that looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We might need to adjust the size a little bit. Let's get out of isolation mode. And we'll see how this fits here. Alright, so I'm just going to slightly push it into the surface here so we can kind of see where it lines up. We'll also move it over a little bit so it's in the center of that strut. And before we rotate it, let's just adjust the size a little bit more. Let's go back into the right view and let's drop back down into poly here. And let's maybe put on an FFD 2x2 here. Okay, and I'm just going to drop that down to control points. Alright, we'll just adjust the size here by selecting the two top verts and kind of bringing them down a little bit. Bring the bottom ones up slightly as well, just until we get the size the way we want. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Just going to select those four top control points. We'll just slightly move it down a little bit more. Okay, we'll also maybe shorten it up a little bit here. So I'm going to grab the outside four and we'll just bring it back just a little bit here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, so that'll pretty much be the handle. Okay, so I'm going to right click on the FFD here and collapse to, which will get rid of that. We'll hit hold yes here, and that'll collapse it down, but it'll still keep the turbo smooth on top. Okay, so now we can just rotate it in position. And so back in the top view, let's go to rotate and just give it a bit of a spin. And we'll center it on that strut. Okay, so slightly push it into the surface again. And we'll see how that looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay, so that'll pretty much take care of all the modeling. Another thing we're going to do here before we get to UVs is actually optimize this mesh. It's really high poly right now and we don't need a lot of these edges in here for it to be this smooth. So we'll go over optimization manually in the next part here.